Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I thought I would slip in a Friday Reads here as this Friday draws to a close. I've poured myself a little glass of Merlot here in my Miranda Lambert Merlot to go tumbler. And I've got the books I've been reading on my lap here. So I am, of course, continuing to work my way through Schmidt's The Novel, which is a massive biography of the novel. I'm 4 chapters in, so last weekend I did read chapter 4, which was titled Before Irony, and looked mainly at John Bunyan and his well-known work, The Pilgrim's Progress, which I have not read, but I do admit reading about him, the time he spent in prison and his life, as well as the impact that the work has had on English literature since he published, it does sort of spark my interest once again. I am worried that Pilgrim's Progress will be a little bit dry, a little bit difficult to get through, as I have heard that in the past. But my interest is sparked enough that I may add that to my TBR at some point. And like many people, I think I know Pilgrim's Progress best through Louisa May Alcott's novel Little Women, where that particular work has a big impact on the girls in the novel. So continuing on with this, with the buddy read with Hannah and Shondi Standfast. And I also continued to read Sarah Lonsdale's Rebel Women Between Wars. I moved on to the chapter in this book, chapter 3, that really is what had caught my attention and caused me to purchase it. It's the chapter on Dorothy Piley, who was a climber, a mountain climber in the 1920s. And she was a pioneer in what this book refers to as manless climbing, which sounds quite absurd, but the phrase quite literally means going mountain climbing without a man with you. At the time, it was considered not only indecent, but incredibly dangerous for women to go climbing without men. And when there would be mountain climbing expeditions where women were allowed, they were only really allowed to go on the easy treks. And if the trek was going to be of any length or any great difficulty, there would specifically be notices and warnings letting women know that they were not invited, letting women know that they would not be allowed to come on this particular climb. And so women-only mountain climbing clubs emerged. And Dorothy Piley spent a good part of her life climbing mountains, summiting peaks, and writing about her experiences. And so it was a quite interesting chapter on her. I'm not quite sure how this fits into the overall argument of the book, which is about how women used, alternate channels and various methods to advance feminism between the wars. But it was quite an interesting chapter, and perhaps she's someone I'd like to read more about. And then I also started rereading a novel by Simone de Beauvoir, her first novel published in 1943. In English, it's titled She Came to Stay. And I first read this way back in 2016 or 2017. It was my second Simone de Beauvoir novel I'd ever read. I had read The Mandarins first. I picked up She Came to Stay, and I greatly enjoyed this one, but it has been quite a while since I've read it. And it's a very intimate and philosophical look at the relationship between 3 people, mainly Xavier, a young woman who is 18, 19, 20 years old when she meets our main character, Francois, and her longtime life partner, Pierre. And Xavier first enters their relationship as a friend and somewhat as a protege of Francois. But Xavier quickly becomes romantically entangled with Pierre, and the entire novel is about the complications that emerge in relationships when you have very different people all competing for each other's affection and all competing for their own self-interest. And this time through, I'm noticing things about the character of Xavier that I didn't perhaps notice on the first go. In fact, I see a lot more familiar characteristics reflected in her, and a lot of things that I, as a person, would hate to become. She is very lazy, but doesn't quite come across as lazy. Rather, she's all about pleasure, but doesn't really see the point to doing anything in life. She would rather just be and exist and only experience pleasure. And she is quick to jealousy, quick to feel rejected, and quick to anger and frustration when she feels like anyone is babying her. And so she's just this very discontented, almost nihilistic character on the scene here. And you have, as a contrast, Francois, who is very disciplined and very goal-oriented and very almost idealistic about her relationships and very calculated about the people that she brings in and out of her life. And then you have Pierre, who just wants to be superior to everyone, to teach everyone, to be almost in control of everything. And as I recall, these three really do clash throughout the novel, while all claiming to have the other's self-interest at heart. And of course, you have a whole cast of other characters throughout. You have actors and playwrights and mistresses and whatnot throughout the novel. And I'm pretty excited to dig back into this novel. And the painting on the front here is, I believe, supposed to be the young woman Xavier, who is really, far too young and too immature and too naive and just she's far too young to be drawn into the complex and manipulative games that Francois and Pierre play in their relationships with people. So reading that, continuing on with Rebel Women Between the Wars, I'll probably read another chapter of that. And I will be reading chapter 5 of the novel over the weekend, which is titled Enter America. Afra, then Zora Neale Hurston. Two authors I'm not familiar with. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. That's what I've been reading. Do let me know how your reading week has been going in the comments below, and I hope you have an excellent weekend.